Alright guys, today we're gonna reacting to I thought the Schmid Peoplemover was impossible. I think this is a elevator that moves through left to right or right to left. Right? And this video happens to just pop in my feet. We're gonna see what's going on here. I never thought there was an elevator that moved from left to right. I thought that was more like a train, but we're gonna see what's going on here. Make sure that you go to my Discord, be part of the family. Also, if you wanna know where it is, it's in the description down below and also in the comment section as a pinned comment. Let's see what this elevator is all about. Let's jump in.
Strange elevators that go both horizontally and vertically.
Oh,
the first was in Genoa, Italy. It's a little cabin that travels along a tunnel.
What?
Regular vertical elevator. The second is in a test tower in Rottweil in Germany. It uses fancy, complicated locking mechanisms and linear induction motors. But the key thing about both those designs is they come to a complete stop when changing direction. Because of how elevators work, safely and smoothly transitioning from horizontal to vertical just isn't possible. Or at least I thought so. But it turns out that the Schmid Peoplemover has been doing exactly that for about 20 years.
That's
Only
crazy.
3 of these have ever actually been installed.
I never thought in my life there was such thing as an elevator that goes up vertical and horizontal at the same time. Well, it's not at the same time, but changing directions, that is.
Only 2 of them still exist. This is the larger one at a train station in Altbach, Germany. It took me a long time to understand how this works and how it works safely. I had to hire an engineering consultant to look at the original patents and break it down for me. And also, with the help of a producer in Germany, I tracked down the inventor.
Meine Firma stellt Maschinen und Automatisierung.
Talk about testosterone, huh? Talk about testosterone, huh?
Anlagen her für die Automobilindustrie. Hat mich das immer gestört? Kann das im heutigen Zeitalter noch sein, dass wegen einem Fußgänger der ganze Verkehr anhalten muss?
Oh.
Meine ganzen Mitarbeiter, die haben mich für bekloppt gehalten, wo ich das Modell da vorgeführt habe. Und trotzdem habe ich da immer dran weitergearbeitet. Ich habe dann auch Verbindung aufgenommen mit der Straße und mit der Bahn und die haben dann sehr
He has a
interessiert
good
sich
point.
gezeigt.
I like that he said, why the traffic has to stop because you have pedestrians. I'm not saying the pedestrians are important, of course they're human, but the entire traffic has to stop because one has to cross from left to right or right to left. I think that's a good point. And just making sure that he has some options for solving that kind of problem, it just brings this reality of making an elevator of this kind.
Habe ich 2-3 Jahre gebastelt nebenher, bis ich dann eine Lösung hatte.
This cabin isn't being pulled by cables. The motor is in the cabin itself. It pulls itself along by turning a pair of cogs up top that sit at rack rails, one on each side of the cabin. So this is basically a cog railway, a very fancy one with anti-shake devices, but a suspended cog railway. And that explains the smooth transition to vertical at the top. The cogs just follow the rails as they curve. But how does it do this safely and then travel vertically without, falling to the ground? Well, like that elevator in Genoa, it does get a bit of help on the vertical part. It locks onto a carrier device and a counterweight with safety systems that are roughly equivalent to a regular elevator. The carrier is what you can see start moving through the window as you transition to vertical movement. And meanwhile, down at the bottom, the counterweight sits on calibrated springs so that as this cabin starts to transfer to vertical, the counterweight gently lifted away from the springs and everything balanced. There is an elegant but also quite complicated docking and undocking mechanism up there in the roof for the cabin and the carrier. The closest analogy I can come up with is that it's a bit like closing an up and over garage door. Everything just sort of slides into place.
Der Peoplemover wurde bei uns in der Fabrik komplett aufgestellt und getestet. Und dann hat die Bahn uns nur 4 Stunden genehmigt zum Aufstellen.
Wow.
War für uns aber kein Problem. Der Peoplemover wurde angeliefert in 3 Teile. Linker Turm, rechter
And
Turm
you know what's
und die
crazy?
Brücke.
It does not look like that too, right? It looks like it goes up, straight up, and then straight to the left. It doesn't look like it's going with that smooth curve, right? And that's what it confuses you when you look at the structure. You think it's just going up and then to the left, but it doesn't. It's just moving smoothly to one side to the other.
Und mit dem Kranwagen reingehoben, Brücke drüber. Da sind wir sogar noch 1 Stunde früher fertig gewesen. Und somit musste die Bahn nur die 3 Stunden nachts frei halten viel, viel billiger, wie wenn sie hätte eine Unterführung gebaut oder eine Brücke drüber.
It's a wonderful design, but it's also complicated. And the alternative is to put in an underpass or two mass-produced elevators and a footbridge between them. Because if one of those elevators breaks down, well, it can be fixed by any qualified technician using off-the-shelf parts, instead of someone who has to be specially trained for this one rare bit of equipment. And if you have a footbridge, you probably also have stairs. So if one of those elevators breaks down, there's a backup. It doesn't work for everyone, but it's better than nothing. And that also means that if you are late for your train and physically able, you can just run up, across and down the footbridge instead of waiting for the people mover to arrive. Now that said, there are advantages to this system. It requires much less land than a regular footbridge does. It doesn't need tunnelling like an underpass. And if you have heavy or bulky bags, well, you don't have to haul them in and out of multiple elevators and across the footbridge. It just takes them across for you.
Ich hatte hier vor Ort ein Erlebnis mit einem Rollstuhlfahrer, der hat mir gesagt, konnte in seinem ganzen Leben noch nie ohne Begleitperson mit dem Zug bis Stuttgart fahren, weil es gibt hier keine Unterführung.
Oh, so see, that's a good point, right? I didn't think about that. But if someone is in a wheelchair, right, it will make it good for them to take the elevator and go from left to right without because you talking about this honestly, folks, even people with wheelchair, we have to make sure in some way they can just be self-sufficient, right? And it's going to be always good to try to help them, but if they can get to a point where they're clearly self-sufficient, hey, it's a win-win.
Sonst gar nichts. Und jetzt kann alleine rein, rüberfahren, nach Stuttgart fahren, zurück, kein Problem mehr. Und das war ja auch der Grund, dass die Bahn das gemacht hat, behindertengerecht den Bahnhof zu machen.
I think there is a possible world in which this design became popular and the parts became off the shelf and this became the standard. I don't think it's a bad invention. It's very clever. It solves a specific problem. But when there are more common and more reliable alternatives that are just a bit more hassle to install, well, not many places want to take the risk.
Oh. So what happened there? So what happened? So basically they stopped doing these? They're not mass produced at all. Okay, if that's the case, why? This looked like a very nice invention. That is very interesting. It looks like a nice invention. Not only that, it just does solve a problem. Now, when he said that, does it reliable? Well, hear me out. For people that are in wheelchair, it is. Now, how many people do you have in that area that have wheelchairs? Well, probably not a lot. Okay, so why would you use this kind of technology when you can just basically go up an elevator and then walk and go down the elevator? But then you can say like, oh, why not doing it all smooth in one ride? You see, there's a lot of things that go into perspective when it comes down to this type of invention. It makes sense when you see it. However, is it reliable? That's the question. Is it reliable? I think just leave it for some investors and see if they want to take that technology and just try to put it in some of their stations. I see a good use of this. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I would like to hear what you guys have to say regarding this type of elevator. I'll see you in the next one.